The young wife and mother of two was killed by her own husband.
Should you be a suspect in this investigation? I don't know.
For the first time, Tara's children are sharing their story with the hope of helping others.
I just want to say thank you that everyone comes out here every year.
On February 9, 2007, Tara Grant kissed her children goodbye and boarded a plane home to Michigan, exhausted from another work trip to Puerto Rico. She had no idea that within hours of landing, her husband would wrap his hands around her throat in their bedroom, and that her name would become synonymous with one of Michigan's most shocking domestic murders. Tara Lynn Grant was 34 years old, a rising star in the corporate construction world, and by all appearances, living the American dream. Born Tara DeStramp on June 28, 1972, in Escanaba, Michigan, she grew up on a farm in the Upper Peninsula with her younger sister Alicia. Her childhood was filled with 4-H projects, horse riding, and hard work. She even won grand champion at the state fair for raising pigs. Friends remember her as driven, warm, and fiercely independent, the kind of person who set goals and crushed them without apology. After earning her business degree from Michigan State University, Tara climbed quickly through the ranks at Washington Group International, eventually earning $160,000 a year managing major construction projects. She loved her work, loved providing for her family, and never saw her success as something to apologize for. At home in their spacious house in Washington Township, she was a devoted mother to 6-year-old Lindsay and 4-year-old Ian. She trusted her husband Stephen completely to handle the home front while she traveled for work. But Tara didn't know that Stephen had begun to resent her. She didn't know about the affairs, and she had no idea that the man she called her partner was about to become her killer. Stephen Grant seemed, to everyone around him, like the model modern husband. Born in 1967, he grew up in Michigan and studied political science, dreaming of a career in government. But after marrying Tara in 1996, those dreams faded. He worked briefly in his father's machine shop, then gave it up entirely when Tara's career took off. He became a stay-at-home dad, a role he publicly embraced with the nickname Mr. Mom. Neighbors saw him coaching youth soccer, playing with his kids, supporting his wife's ambitions. On the surface, he was progressive, selfless, devoted. Beneath that surface, something darker was festering. Stephen had always been insecure. Friends from college remembered how Tara was out of his league, how shocked they were when she finally agreed to date him. As Tara's income soared and his own identity as breadwinner disappeared, that insecurity curdled into resentment. He began obsessively monitoring her emails, convinced she was having affairs despite zero evidence. He accused her of sleeping with her boss, with ex-boyfriends, with anyone he could imagine. Meanwhile, Stephen himself was cheating repeatedly. He had rekindled a sexual relationship with a high school girlfriend, exchanging explicit messages and photos. He flirted with women at bars near his father's shop. And then came Verena Dirks, the 19-year-old German au pair Tara hired to help with the children. Stephen kissed her. He pursued her. He asked if she loved him, all while his wife was thousands of miles away working to support the family. By early February 2007, Stephen's double life was spiraling. He was juggling multiple affairs, drowning in jealousy, and consumed by the belief that Tara was the unfaithful one. When she landed at Detroit Metro Airport that Friday night, delayed and exhausted, Stephen was waiting, and his rage was ready to explode. Tara's flight from Puerto Rico landed late that Friday night, February 9, 2007. Stephen picked her up from Detroit Metropolitan Airport, and they drove home in tense silence. The weekend stretched ahead, time Tara desperately needed with her children after another grueling work week. But when they reached the bedroom, Stephen's simmering anger finally boiled over. He confronted her about the travel, about the time away from home. Tara, exhausted and frustrated, told him she had to leave again on Sunday instead of Monday. Her boss needed her for urgent project work. For Stephen, that was the breaking point. According to his later confession, Tara said she had to do her job and it was none of his business. She turned to leave. He grabbed her wrist. She slapped him. What happened next lasted between 3 and 4 minutes. Stephen's hands went around Tara's throat. She fell backward, hitting her head on the floor. As she struggled to get up, he pressed down harder on her neck. She managed to gasp out words, threats that she'd take the kids, that he'd be homeless, that he was worthless. Then her body went still. The medical examiner would later confirm she'd been manually strangled for approximately 3 to 4 minutes, long enough for Stephen to make a conscious choice with every passing second. When Tara's eyes remained open, Stephen covered her face with an old pair of boxer shorts. He tried lifting her body but couldn't. So he tied a belt around her neck and dragged her corpse toward the garage, her head bouncing against the floor with what he later described as the most disgusting noise, like dropping a watermelon on cement. He stuffed her body into her own Suzuki Tracker. Then he heard the front door open. Verena, the young nanny, was home from a party. Within seconds, Stephen created a lie. Tara had stormed out after a fight, picked up by a mysterious black car. Verena believed him. That night, while Tara's body cooled in the garage just feet away, Stephen kissed Verena and asked if she loved him. For 5 days, Stephen Grant played the grieving husband while Tara's dismembered body lay hidden. On Sunday, February 11, he drove her car to his father's machine shop, where he used saws and hammers to cut her into 14 pieces. He destroyed her laptop, packed the remains into a Rubbermaid container, and at 3 a.m. Monday morning, loaded them onto his children's red snow sled. At Stony Creek Metro Park, 461 acres of frozen wilderness, he attempted to dispose of the evidence. But the sled slipped on the ice, careening down a hill with Tara's torso inside while Stephen chased after it in the darkness. On Wednesday, February 14, Valentine's Day, Stephen finally reported Tara missing. He appeared on local news, crying, begging for information. The performance worked. Public sympathy poured in for the devoted father whose successful wife had vanished. But investigators Brian Kozlowski and his team weren't convinced. Why wait 5 days? Why were Tara's laptop and phone missing but her work planner still in the car? And why did Stephen's lawyer immediately demand all questions be submitted in writing? The break came when a woman walking near Stony Creek found plastic bags containing metal shavings, blood, and dog hair, debris that had fallen from Stephen's sled. Forensic analysis matched the blood to human DNA and the metal shavings to his father's workshop. Police obtained a search warrant. On March 2, 2007, officers arrived at Stephen's home. He calmly walked the family dog while they searched. News cameras captured him outside, preparing for an interview he'd never give. Inside the garage, investigators found Tara's torso stored in a plastic bin. Stephen fled in a borrowed truck with a toy gun, alcohol, and sleeping pills, planning suicide by cop. Police found him barely conscious. In the hospital, he confessed everything. Despite his admission, Stephen Grant pleaded not guilty. At trial in December 2007, Verena Dirks flew back from Germany to testify against him. The jury convicted him of second-degree murder and mutilation of a corpse. He was sentenced to 50 to 80 years, parole eligibility in 2057, when he'd be 88 years old. Today, Lindsay and Ian Grant are adults, raised by Tara's parents after their father destroyed their family. Tara's sister Alicia has spoken publicly about the hole left behind, the birthdays Tara will never attend, the grandchildren she'll never meet, the sister stolen by a man's ego and rage. Her parents, Dusty and Mary DeStramp, attended every day of Stephen's trial, sitting quietly as the man who once called them family described how he dismembered their daughter. When the verdict was read, Mary wept. Not with relief. There is no relief in this kind of loss, but with exhaustion. Stephen Grant remains incarcerated at Bellamy Creek Correctional Facility in Michigan. He will not be eligible for parole until 2057. He has given interviews from prison, offering shifting explanations, claiming it was an accident, blaming Tara's work schedule, expressing remorse that rings hollow. In one interview, he said he thinks about her every day. Tara's family wishes he would stop talking entirely. The case changed nothing and everything. It didn't lead to new domestic violence laws or workplace protections for women who outearned their husbands, but it became a cautionary tale whispered in living rooms across America. The danger of male resentment when traditional gender roles reverse. Tara's story revealed an ugly truth, that some men would rather destroy the women they claim to love than allow them to succeed. Stony Creek Metro Park is open again, peaceful and ordinary. Families sled down the same hills where Stephen once chased Tara's remains. Her former colleagues remember her sharp mind and tireless work ethic. Her children carry her DNA, her drive, and a grief no child should bear. Tara Lynn Grant loved her work, loved her children, and believed her marriage was a partnership. She was 34 years old. She deserved decades more, to see her kids graduate, to build the career she'd worked so hard for, to grow old. Her name was Tara. She was more than what was done to her. The world is colder without her in it.